Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's August 23, 2019, and this is episode 673. In the spirit of sharing new things I learn as I live my photography-centric life, today I'd like to talk about a few new tools that I'm finding both fun and useful. These are not necessarily photography related, but are certainly useful to anyone that needs to communicate with others as part of their business day. These services are not new either. They've been around for a while, but I have really just pulled them into my business. And my goal for this podcast has always been to share where I am in the hope that you might find some of what I'm doing useful. So, to provide a little background, until this week I have been using a WooCommerce plugin called Bookings that integrated with my WooCommerce store on the website and enabled me to configure the times that I'm available for meetings or other work like consultation sessions, and it also kind of synchronized with my calendar so that it would not book meetings or work at times when I had other appointments booked. It worked, and I liked that I could use the system for both paid and non-paid meetings and provide my professional-looking invoices automatically. But it was cumbersome and required a lot of maintenance to tell the system when I was not going to be available, and it also ate up a fair amount of system resources as it constantly polled my calendars for updates. As part of my preparation for the new mentorship service that I'm trying really hard to complete during August, because the mentorship includes 2 one-hour mentoring sessions each quarter, I decided to look more closely at a service called Calendly. I've had a Calendly account for a while now and have seen others using the service, but I never really put it to good use until now. As I looked deeper into Calendly, though, as a way to book the sessions included in my upcoming mentorships, I noticed firstly that it integrated really well with both my Google and iCloud calendars, but I had to start a paid plan to sync with 2 calendars, so I started a premium plan and set that all up. I was able to quickly set up a widget to embed into my website to enable mentees to schedule their mentorship sessions, and the whole thing was much smoother than WooCommerce and the Bookings extension, as you can see from the screenshot that I've embedded in the post at mbp.ac/673. I've also linked to my consultancy page so you can play with the widgets and see how they work live on that page. As is often the case though, once I find something that is easy to use and aesthetically pleasing, I generally start to look for other ways to use that product. I jumped deeper into the Calendly website and noticed that if I upgraded to their Pro plan, I could link my Stripe account and start taking credit card payments right there in my calendar. And this means that I could stop using the WooCommerce bookings completely and save my own system resources even more. So I thought about this for a few hours, basically as I slept. Then, when I got up the next day, I upgraded my account again and set up paid sessions and uninstalled WooCommerce bookings. Other things that I like about Calendly is that they send email to both me and the person booking the meeting or consultation and automatically place everything in my calendar. But another reason for starting one of their paid plans was because that allowed me to integrate with Zoom and embed my conference call details and links to the calendar as well. Zoom is another service that I've been using for a while on a free plan, It's basically a teleconferencing service that I'm sure you've already heard of. But like Calendly, they are doing a really good job of the aesthetics and ease of use. And they also have some pretty neat features that I unearthed as I dug deeper into their system that quickly made me upgrade to a paid plan here as well. The first thing I found interesting was the ability to automatically record both the audio and video from calls, either to the local computer or into 1 gigabyte of cloud storage that comes with a paid plan. Another benefit of the paid plan is that it lifts the 40-minute recording time limit up to 24 hours, which means I can use Zoom to record podcasts with both video and audio. I mentioned fun in the introduction, and I'm sure you're thinking so far that none of this is really fun. So let's get into this. I noticed an option in the Zoom preferences called Virtual Background. There are only a few options, with one being to add the image that you would like to use as a background, and the second was to tell the Zoom software that you're using a green screen. When you use a green screen, you essentially enable the software to do a much better job of replacing your actual background with your virtual background. And I'm finding that the implementation in Zoom is really quite accurate, and to me, looks relatively convincing. You have to completely block out your background with the green screen for this to work. Here is a photograph of my green screen behind my chair at my desk. I have a 180 centimeter wide green screen which fits perfectly with 2 bars of my 4-bar background support system, and that's just enough. If I place it close to the back of my chair, as you can see here, my webcam sees nothing but green behind me. I have also set up an LED video light behind my second display so that I can better control the direction and amount of light that hits me as I talk. Notice too that I set up a second LED video light to illuminate the far side of my green screen, and a third in the foreground illuminating the near side of the green screen. This is required to ensure that the screen is relatively evenly lit. You can see the areas that need more light because the real background starts to show through where there isn't enough light hitting the green screen. To show you briefly what the video looks like, I recorded a short video within Zoom, which I've embedded into the blog post at mbp.ac/673. So go and check that out if you're not already on the blog. If you are already on the blog and say listening with the embedded audio player, pause the audio player and take a quick look at the video before moving on. Actually, as I finalized preparation for this post, I have this morning recorded an interview via Zoom with Aaron Nace of Flern, and I used the green screen and found that my white face looks a little too different colour from the warmer background. So I'm actually going to switch my video lights around because the smaller one closest to the camera in the photo that I shared a moment ago has a white balance knob on the back, which enables me to merge the light between the white and the orange LEDs to warm up my skin tones a little. So it would probably be better for me to use that as the main light in future. You can actually just use any image that you want as your background and pretend you're pretty much anywhere. But I decided to mock up a scene that I'd love to be in a position to actually work from. And that's a nice spacey gallery with some prints on my wall. I have prints on my wall here in my studio, but the other computers and storage, etc., make it a somewhat cluttered environment. So I figured I'd have some fun and create something closer to my dream background, as you can see in the video. You'll also see that I've actually created 2 backgrounds, one showing 2 walls of my virtual gallery, and the other showing the side wall that would be to my left if this was a real space. I got the original background images from Shutterstock and placed my own photographs over the blank canvases that are like placeholders in the image. To finish it off, I added my logo to the wall in a prominent location as a bit of marketing, and added multiple shadows to the logo as though there were really 3 lights shining on it. Okay, so there is one last application that I'd like to talk about before we finish, and that is Fantastical. This is another app that I've had my eye on for a while, but figured I'd buy a license at this point to give myself a little bit more control over my various calendars now that I've linked them up with Calendly and in turn to Zoom. Fantastical is, in my humble opinion, way overpriced, at 6,000 yen for me here in Japan, which is about $56, and then you have to pay again for the iOS version. But again, aesthetically, it's much more pleasing to look at than the standard Mac OS calendar app, and it seems slightly easier to add appointments, etc. Another thing that I like is that you can create calendar sets, and so I created a calendar called Blocked Time that only contains a slightly extended lunchtime each day and time for evening meals, as well as time to wake up slow on the weekends, and evening time on the weekend that I prefer to spend with my wife rather than being in meetings. I then created a default calendar view and unchecked my blocked time calendar so that I don't have to look at all of these appointments every time I open my calendar. But because they're still in the calendar, Calendly correctly blocks this time out so that I don't end up with lots of appointments at meal times or in the evenings at weekends. There are also keyboard shortcuts using Control, then the numbers 1, 2, 3 and so on to open the various views that I've created, so I don't have to go into the preferences whenever I want to see or edit my block time. I like this sort of feature that just makes life a little bit easier. I know that I could do this stuff with the standard Mac OS calendar app, but not in quite as sophisticated or aesthetically pleasing way. I would have been happier if Fantastical was half the price, and I don't say that often, but hey, they still got my money, so I can't see the price as being that big a problem. Okay, so we'll wrap it up there for this week, and I'll push this out, then get back to working on the new mentorship system that I'm really trying to get finished over the next week if possible, and look forward to introducing you to that very soon. So thanks very much for listening today. If you enjoy this podcast, please share a link with your friends. Subscribe in iTunes or your favorite podcast program to ensure uninterrupted delivery. If you have a moment to rate the podcast or leave us a review in iTunes, that helps to keep us relevant in the huge number of podcasts out there now. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn, and links to everything that I'm up to are at martinbaileyphotography.com, so do drop by and take a look. I'll be back next week with another episode, but in the meantime, you take care and have a great week, whatever you're doing. Bye-bye.